Previously on Yu-Gi-Oh! History, we looked at the perilous Pepe format, where a Tier 0 Performapal Performage deck overtook the game like none before, culminating in everything good and evil about the pendulum mechanic. Complicated combos, resilient monsters, and the versatility to combat any contending deck, meta and anti-meta alike. Pepe's representation at YCS's got so widespread that Konami would put out an adjusted list that was essentially an emergency list with a bow. This was a surefire way to end Pepe's reign, as many key pieces were either limited or outright banned. Plush Fire was extinguished, Damage Juggler was fired, and Ptolemaeus for Cyber Dragon Infinity plays was also gone. This led the metagame to an awkward place. Where would the meta go from here after the hellish landscape? The following format would feature some notable releases, such as Wing Raiders on February 12th. This deck building booster set would primarily feature the new Phantom Knight and Super Quant archetypes that would add upon extension plays and the rank 3 card pool. After all, PKs had the option to banish themselves from the grave to search for powerful back row cards, such as Fogblade, which is like a searchable Fiendish Chain, and their boss monster and Breaksword could pop cards and fuel the grave. On Quant's front, they had monsters that could be easily special summonable, like Red Layer being a Cyber Dragon type card, and Blue Layer being a great emergency teleport target, in addition to Grand Pulse that acted as back row hate. Yet, what would happen at the next YCS would not be too surprising. Duelists played what worked, but it was what worked in a healthier way. Going in, there was a hype for Burning Abyss returning to the forefront. Heck, it would even tie for third. However, the top two were from recent memory. Second place Cosmo, which was just as powerful as it was before, if not proving its adaptability. And first place was the remnants of Pepe, the suboptimal by comparison Dark Pendulum deck. Pen players were still on top of their game, and it showed, especially when Cosmo's pilot, Marvin Weber, apparently made plenty of misplays in the final. But what would be more interesting was the other deck tied for third, Monarch. This was a huge jump from their first appearance at YCS Atlanta. The builds would be fairly similar with the use of new tools from the recent booster set. Jack Quincy would use Maxi and the new Red Layer to ramp up the deck speed to a respectable manner. Certainly more respectable than the top 16 Monarch FTK with Chicken Game and Magical Explosion. While it only made it to top 16, the fact that an FTK made it this far was alarming for many. And unlike old FTKs like Electrum FTK, this one was seen as less fragile. Time will tell, I suppose. And as time moves on, between the next YCSs would be the Zexal Volume 8 promotional card, Utopia, the Lightning. All you need to know is that this is a very powerful Xyz monster that can be ranked up via the easily accessible rank 4 Utopia. It's a great addition to beat over monsters in any deck that can make it, such as the mass summoning pendulum strategy seen at YCS Las Vegas, where the new version would win with Draco Pal, a deck that focuses more on the Draco engine with updated tools such as Archfiend Eccentric, Guiding Ariadne, Painful Decision, and a slew of solemn traps. Yes, a similar deck 1 to the surprise of no one. We'd even see a higher adoption rate of Monarch, making it to top 32 with an extra deck Monarch build, as well as a top 16 Domain Monarch deck. Though perhaps Monarchs were still in the background when compared to a new topping deck in 4th place, Phantom Knight Burning Abyss, aka Phantom Abyss, or more widely known as PK Fire, much like the move in Earthbound and Super Smash Bros. Turns out both archetypes worked well together given their graveyard base effects and a rank 3 toolbox, peanut butter and jelly. Quite frankly, by March 18th, you had options for what deck to run. Premium Gold Infinite Gold would include a bunch of great reprints for many meta decks. Do you want to play Cosmo, BA, or Draco Pal? Well then this is the set for you. Reducing the barrier of entry to allow people to try and play different top decks is a great way to make the format more inviting. And that's not even mentioning all the big OCG imports like Hope Harbinger, a powerful rank 8 that can negate spell cards and effects. More importantly, there's Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal. This rank 6 can be easily special summoned by using Dante and sending a B8 to grave, enabling further combos. Furthermore, it can foolish a card and floats into Dante. Wow. If you thought Phantom Knights were a great upgrade to BAs, then PK Fire's flames just got stoked even further. The following two YCSs at Costa Rica and Houston would be more of the same in regards to Draco Pal winning both events, though the three other decks many were expecting to see at Houston included Cosmo, PK Fire, and Monarch variants, with PK being the hot new deck, ironically enough. Especially with Premium Gold allowing for more top deck variety and adding new tech. But many were also simply awaiting the next list, which was bound to arrive soon. Speaking of, April 11th would bring the next Forbidden list. This list did not wait to hit some of the top decks. Wavering Eyes was banned as retaliation for its abuse in Draco Pal. Chicken Game was also banned due to its FTK enabling. Further, Draco cards were limited, as well as Reasoning getting limited and E-Tele getting semi'd due to both cards' usage in Cosmo and Monarchs. The only deck that got off free was PK Fire, unless he ran Upstart Goblin. The immortal Dante lives on. But hey, at least Thousand Eyes Restrict was finally off the list after roughly 10 years. Demok would also come off the list too, however this was post-errata, so it wasn't as big a jump as Tier was. Though Cosmos were not out of the game yet, as the new Millennium Pack would feature Card of Demise, a crazy draw card for any deck that likes to play the back row, Cleaforts included. While not as important, the anime focus set also included a lot of alt art that makes me wish we got more alt art for cards other than the big ones more often. I'm still waiting on a Black Skull Dragon alt art, but I digress. This is to say that the first YCS of the April format at Santiago would heavily favor PK Fire, which makes sense given the deck's lack of hits on the list. Sadly, the first place deck does not exist online. Just like that, we're at the new core set. It's been a bit, hasn't it? May 6 arrives with Shining Victories, a set that would bring a lot to the game. For one, Performa Pal got some new pals in Odd Eyes Light Phoenix and Odd Eyes Unicorn. In conjunction with the pre-existing Sky Iris, the field spell gained more use to be deck worthy to protect and search more Performa Pal cards. Cosmo also gained support primarily in Dark Lady, which gives the deck a powerful pilot that can negate monster effects, as well as generally extending plays from the usual pilot into ship into pilot into ship. Other notable singles include Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries, Amorphage Sloth, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, Pre-Preparation of Rites, and Fire King Island. Too bad for Necros, they really would have liked pre-prep. Really, the shining victor of the set was all the Blue Eyes White Dragon support. The deck gained much needed backing since its 2013 structured deck where Maiden with Eyes of Blue and Azure Eyes Silver Dragon came out. Now we have powerful new inclusions that don't need a second thought, like Whitestone of Ancients, Sage with Eyes of Blue, Dragon Spirit of White, and the new Synchro, Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. This non-spirit monster hinders Pens and PK Fire by locking the amount of monsters that can be special summoned at a time. It can also negate an effect in the graveyard once per turn. In addition, it can float into Azure Eyes, making Spirit a much needed boss monster to the Blue Eyes strategy. Sadly, come YCS Providence on May 28th, Blue Eyes would show that it was a bit too bricky to be anything beyond a rogue deck at that time, despite its theoretical merits. The event would see similar decks making the top cut like Monarchs and PK Fire, but also Magispector would appear here, updating its formula by incorporating the powerful Performa Pal toolkit. It shows just how strong pals are to infect any contending pendulum strategy. This is not to say it was only Pens that would change here, as Monarchs would try out the brilliant Fusion engine, Cosmos would try Fire King Island, and Cleaforts would showcase Card of Demise's strengths too. The impact of Magispector returning surprised some people who expected to see more Demise decks, but it turned out more general builds like Pure Cosmo was just more stable, at least at Providence. The ripple in the meta was felt nonetheless, as PK Fire was not as dominant post-Shining Victories. And if you want to buy any of these cards and more, then be sure to use my TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. It doesn't cost you anything extra and gives me some coffee monies. Gotta get them lattes, ooh yeah. But what would dominate would come the following month, June. On the YCS front, PK Fire would win YCS Columbus, cementing the deck as a force to be reckoned with. More importantly would be the World Championship qualifiers where Pendulum Pile won in South America and Europe. What about other notable ones in Central America, Oceania, and North America? Monarchs, surprisingly enough. I've been skirting around the discussion of Monarchs for a while now because they were a bit of an underdog deck up until this point, but now their power cannot be ignored. So let's talk about it. The strategy during this period had two variations: Domain Monarch and Extra Deck Monarch. Let's start with the most typical build, Domain. This revolves around the field spell, Domain of the Monarchs. By having no cards in the extra deck, and while you control a tribute summon monster, your opponent is locked out of special summoning. So you can see where the deck's strength lies. By incorporating all the new cards like Monarch Stormforth, a quick play soul exchange, the Prime Monarch, a deck refresher, draw a card, and a trap monster, and Erebus, the Underworld Monarch to rip apart your opponent's hand, the deck gained major strength. Not even bringing up other key cards like Ether, the Heavenly Monarch, and the Vassals to extend further plays. While Domain Monarch would be the most popular by ways of locking out the opponent, the lack of an extra deck meant less utility options per matchup. Thus, some tried the extra deck Monarch variant to make full use of the 15-card resource system. And it turns out it was equally as potent given its win at 2 WCQs. But the North American WCQ would lean back in the favor of Domain. Regardless of which build you played, the allure of the deck aside from power was the fact that it was cheap. You could build a competent deck by simply purchasing 3 copies of the structure deck. So in addition to premium gold, there was no excuse for you not to give the format a try back in 2016. All niceties said, there was another deck lingering in the background, waiting for their chance to leap out and attack directly. The deck in question gained strength in part due to 2 releases: Rise of the True Dragon structure deck on July 8th, and the Dark Side of Dimensions movie pack on July 22nd. Both these included great dragon sports such as Return of the Dragon Lords, which would revive a dragon and give them follow-up protection, and the plethora of Blue Eyes cards from the movie pack. Yes, I'm talking about the legendary Dragon of Destruction. MVP 1 gave the deck a ton of new power cards like Blue Eyes Alternative Dragon, which is easily summonable, a big beater, and can pop a card, and Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon that is completely protected by targeting and card effects, and deals double piercing with its heavy 4k attack stat. The strategy kept receiving great search cards like Sage and Melody of Awakening Dragon, Draw Ability and Trade-In and Cards of Consonance, Attack Potency in the big white dragons, along with versatility with cards like White Stone and Dragon Shrine. It's not unlike other decks we've seen where the slow buildup led to an explosive payoff. Said payoff would be at the 2016 World Championship. Before we dive in, I must state the scope of this video. I won't be covering the next core set, size set, or YCS despite them being within the April list period. This is because the 2 sets would not be legal at the World Championship, and the YCS would have the sets legalized. So that would be better discussed in the following video. So subscribe and hit that bell to stay tuned. You won't regret it. Worlds would be quite the interesting event. With everything building up to this point, you expect what we've been seeing thus far. Pendulum Piles, PK Fire, Monarch, maybe some variants of decks sprinkled in. The thing with these world events is that they need to cater to both the TCG and the OCG in a fair way. This is something I scarcely discuss in the series, yet I have to bring it up now because unlike previous years where a certain deck like BA would go missing due to its then TCG exclusive status, the specific list used in this Worlds essentially neutered many of the pre-existing top decks. The list would limit Domain, Pantheism, E-Telly, Dante, Pendulum Sorcerer, Shadow Mist, and more. Dante, my boy. This, in conjunction with all the new Dragon/Blue Eye support, gave the sign to many that Konami wanted Worlds to be dominated by the nostalgic archetype. Some still thought Monarchs would do alright, and they were correct, as Stormforth did deal with Blue Eyes' strong monsters. Magispector would likewise give a strong showcase due to its own pieces not getting hit whatsoever. Yet the damage was dealt nonetheless, as Blue Eyes would take first, in a swing that would have shocked people 1 month prior. The winner? Shunsuke Hayama, the reigning, defending, undisputed world champion. He's the only person to win this major twice, back-to-back no less, cementing his legacy in the Royal Magical Library. Blue Eye City, bitch! I decided to cut the video off here since the overarching narrative is the rise and fall of Monarchs. While the period did evolve throughout the months and stemmed into a couple formats, the Tribute Focus deck was around the whole time. Draco Pals was the obvious top deck once Pepe was thrown into the bin. But through thick and thin, Monarchs were able to find its footing in two comparable strategies. It was the perfect combination of budget and ceiling that only needed the right duelist at the right time to prove that it was more than a flash in the pan. And just when things were starting to get hot, Konami flew in and nipped it in the bud in favor of its source material baby. It's quite a sad story in retrospect, right? There were plenty of decks in this inviting format for people to play. Monarch variants, Draco Pal, Pendulum Piles, Magispector, PK Fire, Mermaid, Klee, Infernoid, Blue Eyes, and other builds here and there, just for the biggest event of the year to narrow it down significantly. On top of that, Dueling Network got taken down by Konami in July, which hurt further testing as well as all the safe decks I had built there, like my Rank 6 Chaos Hungry Burger deck. To be fair, despite Worlds being a strange case of company interference, the first half of 2016 was really more so Konami atoning for the Pepe hell. Many people left the game in the early days of Arc V, but I'll go on record saying that had they stayed for just a bit longer, they would have experienced a truly wonderful format filled with variety and availability. I mean, after all, 5Ds did have Teledad and Dark Strike format, and it got better afterwards. But what do you all think? Was this national season as healthy as I made it out to be? What was truly the top deck of this time? Let me know in the comments below, and join my Patreon to help the longevity of the channel. Until next time, goodbye, sayonara, and arrivederci. Duel on, passionate duelist.